I confronted Dean after my niece was fired, revealing Charlie's hidden crimes. A shocking turn. Dean's downfall began with my complaints. Approximately 9 years ago, I, F48, had a remarkably attractive niece named Emma, F35, on my husband's side of the family. She is a showstopper, very friendly, modest, and intelligent. However, she is also quite shy and struggles with self-assertiveness and establishing boundaries. Years ago, I was acquainted with a man named Dean, who is now 51, from my initial job in marketing. We worked in the same building where most young professionals knew each other and gathered for lunch at the lobby cafe. He was a genuinely likable person, extremely funny, agreeable, and supportive. He was determined to become a business owner. Our small group eventually drifted apart. I moved on and gradually lost contact with my circle. Fast forward to the present, I am married and actively seeking to grow our business. I unexpectedly encountered Dean at a dental appointment, and we caught up while waiting. He informed me that he now owned a company that provided small business services. I visited his website and opted to try out his services. He became our regular provider, and our collaborative relationship generated numerous referrals for him. Essentially, we played a role in helping him develop his business. I encouraged my niece Emma to apply for a position at his company since he was in search of new employees. She was employed as a versatile worker. The salary wasn't substantial, but she was only one course away from graduating and wanted to enhance her resume. For about a year, our working routine involved paying him consistently for high-quality professional services such as payroll, accounting, and exhibition representation. Dean introduced us to Charlie, who had been voicing concerns about his business slowing down due to the recent recession in 2011, which proved difficult for many small business owners. Charlie was some form of consultant. I use the term, some form, because his exact role was unclear. Charlie appeared to be a decent individual, formal and courteous, maintaining a proper balance of seriousness and friendliness. We were invited to a business meeting where Dean could update us on various matters and seek our opinions. This wasn't unusual since Dean and I had previously collaborated on brainstorming sessions that benefited us both when we initially met. We continued to have periodic discussions after reconnecting, although I refrained from sharing details about my business for ethical reasons. However, I was open to listening to him and possibly providing my insights. Charlie and Dean presented a business opportunity, but my husband and I decided to decline. At the end of the dinner, when the bill came up $90 short, Charlie apologized for not having cash on hand and directly requested my husband to cover his share. We covered his portion, feeling pressured in that moment. I resolved that if he didn't repay us, I would have Dean reimburse us. After leaving the restaurant, my husband and I discussed the unexpected dining situation, ultimately deciding to let it go to avoid becoming overly concerned, especially since we didn't know Charlie very well and Dean seemed unfazed. Charlie reimbursed us the very next morning, apologetic and contrite. Charlie became a regular presence in Dean's office. I noticed a change in Dean's behavior. He seemed eager for rapid financial gains and quick success. They spent their days in meetings discussing numerous multi-level marketing opportunities. With Dean frequently out of his office, the quality of service dropped significantly. We found ourselves chasing him to ensure timely deliveries, constantly emphasizing the importance of deadlines. Dean's office turned into a gathering spot for opportunists, aspiring alpha males, and those eager to achieve success quickly and flaunt it to anyone who deemed them incompetent. Our frequent dinner meetings diminished. Charlie's true nature began to reveal itself. He made sexist jokes and disparaged others, often raising his voice. He even took a drink from my niece's soda, which disgusted her, leading her to give it to him and get a new one. Emma became Dean's official assistant, meaning she had to attend every meeting, sometimes lasting late into the night. I began to question whether she was compensated for those extra hours, though I didn't want to pry. We declined every invitation if we knew Charlie would be included. We limited ourselves to only 3 annual services and canceled others as customer service significantly declined. This arrangement worked to our advantage. Then, we paid Dean $10,000 for installing our new platform, which would give us control over our own technological usage. 3 weeks passed, and we had yet to utilize the platform. It did not support multiple users as required, and we needed someone from Dean's company to come daily because we couldn't get it operational. We simply demanded our money back. Dean consented and refunded us $2,000 while promising the remaining $8,000 in installments. I requested a personal meeting as I wanted to resolve the matter entirely. We had given our money, received no service, and were still expected to wait for my total refund. Really? By that time, Charlie had seized control and was making all the decisions. Important employees were inexplicably fired. Charlie shouted at everyone and made choices while Dean remained silent. My niece looked increasingly unhappy. Dean had her carry his suitcase and continuously serve Charlie coffee. I didn't appreciate the crude jokes he directed at her, but Dean remained passive. I took a stand for her. Charlie disliked being challenged, creating a highly tense atmosphere. Numerous issues began to raise red flags. Charlie portrayed himself as quite the operative, boasting of being a former college professor, business owner, and marketing director. He claimed to have spent months away on business, even recounting a dramatic New Year's Eve alone on a plane, claiming his presence was extremely crucial for the company, which led to his workaholic lifestyle and ultimately his marriage's downfall. He was a fast talker, skilled with numbers and knowledgeable. He recounted long motorcycle rides across exotic locations, yet he lacked a vehicle, lived at a friend's home, and demonstrated limited competencies. I continued to press for my refund, and Charlie exploded. He attempted to corner and intimidate me, challenging, "Are you a software expert? If you were, you wouldn't require our services. Answer the question or be quiet because you don't know what you're doing." I admitted to not being an expert, and he retorted with, "Then keep your mouth shut." I rose and told him I might not be an expert, but I was the paying client. I cautioned him to watch his language and warned there would be no second warning. My relationship with Dean suffered. He did not defend me, not as a friend or as a client. I informed Dean that I would never again engage with Charlie under any circumstances. I promptly canceled all accounting and payroll services. My trust had vanished. I conducted a background check on Charlie and found none of his corporate claims checked out. He had an extensive criminal record, including gender violence, bank and wire fraud, securities fraud, and other patrimonial crimes, and a pending arrest warrant dating back 8 years. I forwarded this information to Dean, who never responded. I encouraged my niece to resign from her job, but she chose to finish her semester before seeking a new position, a decision I viewed as unwise. She claimed that Dean owed her for overtime, and that leaving would likely mean losing that payment. Dean reached out to me with an explanation. He offered an unconvincing apology and requested a meeting with him and an impressive software company owner who could provide assistance. I insisted on a refund, but he assured me he would cover the costs. I brought up Charlie's criminal history, and he claimed ignorance, stating he had confronted Charlie and cut all ties, a lie. Charlie asserted all was resolved and that he was on probation now. I met the woman, Frances. She was antagonistic, standoffish, and exuded a superiority complex. She owned a yacht, multiple properties, and held influence over various states. I left that meeting without an actual resolution. She barely touched upon software matters and instead focused on other subjects. After researching her, I discovered a plethora of concerning information. When I asked Dean if she had any connection to Charlie, he provided a vague response, stating, "I don't know, it could be." When I insisted on a definitive answer, he replied, "I can't jeopardize the integrity of my success by indulging in your unfounded conjectures." His business was plummeting. He viewed Frances as his salvation. She hired him to assist in establishing one of her significant companies and promised to pay him a total of $750,000. She would also provide him $2,000 weekly for 6 months merely to facilitate company creation tasks. I contacted a software engineer to install a new system. Our original intent was to get Dean's software operational to prevent additional expenses for an entirely new installation. The engineer informed me that the software was incompatible and was a copy of an obsolete system. He advised filing a fraud complaint. I was reluctant to involve my niece further. My priority was her departure from that employment. At that point, Dean was attempting to intertwine himself with his client's business, making foolish choices based on acquiring, an undefined percentage of what we achieve. Companies started to distance themselves because of his deceptive strategies. Further research concluded that Dean had inflated his company's capacity for specialized software and consequently raised the price. He pocketed $2,000 and allowed Charlie to take the $8,000 for whatever subpar products they managed to provide me. This is exactly why I couldn't retrieve my $8,000. Francis was their software supplier. I informed Dean that due to his ties with a felon, we were terminating all remaining services. That afternoon, Emma was fired, with Dean justifying it by saying she refused to give Charlie a ride. Emma approached my husband and me, visibly shaken and emotional. She recounted that when I had canceled our services with Dean, she was in his car, ready to exit and enter the office. Dean slammed the door with such force that the vehicle shook. Confused, it took her a few moments to disembark, prompting Dean to open the door and shout, "Move." The tension regarding Charlie escalated as well. Emma addressed the issue at work, but Dean's response was to tell her to grow up, toughen up, and how do you expect to succeed in this ruthless world if you are so sensitive? Charlie's humor turned overtly sexual and inappropriate. There had been an incident months earlier when, after another unsuccessful business meeting, Charlie was drunk and Dean ordered Emma to drive him home. He attempted to sexually assault her during the ride, subsequently claiming amnesia regarding the event. This time, Emma refused to be Charlie's chauffeur and potential victim. Dean terminated her employment after a tirade about how Charlie was being victimized by losers and faithless know-it-alls. He found joy in exerting power, verbally berating Emma as a goody two-shoes, and reminding her that she was only able to make a living during her time with him due to his pity. He emailed her, stating that due to her insubordination, dishonest practices, and malicious manipulation, her employment was terminated, effective immediately. My husband and I backed her, hiring an excellent lawyer. This situation had escalated beyond monetary concerns. I confronted Dean at the restaurant where he and Charlie frequently held their meetings. In front of his clients, I challenged Dean and warned Charlie that his good fortune had concluded. Next time I encounter him, he would have to deal with his own problems. I became vigilant regarding details. I examined various records and discovered that Charlie had violated his probation and the arrest warrant remained active. The legal system had failed to track him down effectively. He bore felonies across several states, and his time spent abroad was, in reality, incarceration. Emma successfully proved her case of sexual harassment, resulting in Dean owing her $15,000 in unpaid salary, punitive damages, and additional fines. I contacted numerous former employees who had been terminated and informed them about pursuing legal action against him. 3 of them took me up on the suggestion, and one even won. I sought to place him under financial and legal pressure. He was mandated to return my money plus legal costs. The judge did not accept his excuse of, "But it's Charlie's fault." My contractual agreement was with Dean alone, not Charlie. He was also required to compensate me for a breach of confidentiality, since Charlie was neither his employee nor legally bound as a business partner. The court initiated a new investigation regarding potential financial fraud and theft, since Dean had access to clients' payroll and accounting information, which encompassed a significant amount of data. A new warrant for Charlie's arrest was issued, but he managed to evade capture. The judge ordered the permanent closure of Dean's business, sending a forfeiture notice. I later saw on his business's Facebook page that Dean had been invited to speak as a guest lecturer at a nearby college, which was ironic since he had never completed his college education, something I had known from the outset. I reached out to them and conveyed my concerns regarding an unqualified individual teaching at their institution. I exposed his lack of academic credentials by targeting their promotional materials. They subsequently announced a different lecturer would be taking his place without any further clarification. That fall, a former colleague informed my niece that Francis had been arrested by federal authorities for a fraudulent scheme unrelated to my retaliation, yet still satisfying. Interestingly, she had ceased paying Dean the $2,000 weekly early in the arrangement, but continued to manipulate him into providing free work. I sent formal communication to all the companies I had recommended Dean to, clarifying that I could no longer endorse his services, attaching a copy of our lawsuit. Companies began to withdraw their business at an alarming rate. Additional lawsuits began to accumulate against Dean for his dishonest services. This initiated a sequence of events that led to Dean's decline. He faced several vehicle repossessions as his business began to falter. I contacted the repossession company and informed them of his whereabouts and the best time to locate him. This was straightforward, as even after closing his business, he and Charlie continued to frequent the same restaurant. While I wasn't present for the tow, I confirmed later that his car had indeed been repossessed. His marriage deteriorated. He was charged with selling and profiting from illegal software and ended up on probation. He lost his home and illegally occupied a portion of the abandoned commercial property next to his former business. I disclosed this information in an anti-gentrification Facebook group that was scrutinizing the area due to resident displacement. Dean utilized the space as a combination of an office and living area, while residents demanded it become a community center. They organized a protest right outside the building, prompting police intervention. He faced charges of trespassing and unlawfully using electricity from a nearby establishment, resulting in the revocation of his probation. Charlie proved more elusive. He vanished for several years, and I was unable to track him down. Eventually, he regained confidence, becoming moderately active on social media, claiming ownership of a fictitious business. However, he never appeared in any of his photographs. I speculated whether he was posting from prison. I explored his aunt's profile and discovered she frequently posted updates, including images of family gatherings. Through her comments, I learned that he now had a young child and had lost both legs due to poor blood sugar management linked to alcohol abuse. He remained the same deceitful person. One of his pictures was captioned, "Happy birthday, dear son, even though cold-hearted individuals are keeping us apart." I uncovered his pending child support case. Anonymously, I contacted both the mother of his child and the child support division, providing them with all necessary information, including his aunt's address and any locations I knew he frequented. He was arrested, facing new charges including sexual battery, the details of which remain unclear, and financial exploitation of a mentally ill individual. In the end, I recovered $3,000 out of the $8,000 he had taken from me. My case against him extended nearly 2 years. However, witnessing him pale and quavering during court shifts was solace enough. The case burdened his already failing health. His hands shook, and he broke down, falling ill upon receiving his sentence. He simply bowed his head and turned pale before requesting medic assistance. I recall the judge beginning proceedings with, "I'm tired of this case. In over 10 years, I've come across your name in multiple warrants, yet you evade accountability, compelling us to expend taxpayer funds tracking you down. What is wrong with you? You plead your health issues, but none of that has prevented you from stealing, abusing, and tarnishing the integrity of those who depend on you." I managed to smile at him repeatedly when the judge's attention was diverted. He served 4 years of a 36-year sentence and passed away in 2019. Story 2. I, 26M, am struggling to figure out how to approach a conversation with my 22F girlfriend regarding issues I am having in our relationship, including marriage doubts. Any advice? I have been in a relationship with my partner for 4 years now, and we have lived together for 2.5. Overall, we get along exceptionally well. We rarely, if ever, argue, and I have been truly happy during the initial years of our relationship. In the past few months, I have been feeling pressured to propose, and I understand from my partner's perspective that they wish to have a wedding while they are younger, believing they can enjoy it more, and we can start a family sooner. Unfortunately, I have been experiencing some doubts about this notion. A little background about my partner: they work part-time in an entry-level retail position and deal with anxiety, which prevents them from driving. This will be relevant later. About myself, I am currently employed full-time in an entry-level information technology role, and I am also studying full-time alongside it to pursue a better-paying position. We divide household tasks somewhat as follows: I handle cooking, dishes, grocery shopping, yard work, taking out the trash, cleaning the litter box for our 3 cats, and driving everywhere. My partner is responsible for floors, laundry, washing and folding, and feeding the cats. We share the responsibility of keeping our common areas tidy and occasionally do each other's chores. Note, I will acknowledge that I may be overlooking some tasks my partner regularly performs, which might skew the list to appear heavier on my side. Without meal prepping and avoiding excessive spending, we struggle to live comfortably beyond paycheck to paycheck, and I want to earn enough to support a family and own a home. I don't game, drink, or smoke, and my time is predominantly occupied by studying, work, household chores, and spending time with my partner. I ensure to dedicate 3 to 4 full afternoons each week to either actively engage with my partner, like playing a game or going out, or simply enjoy each other's company, such as watching a show together. I do not really have friends, apart from some work acquaintances that are forming because I have had to make many sacrifices to strive for a better future for us. Before I propose to my partner, I genuinely want her to obtain a driver's license so that we can both drive independently and she can become more self-sufficient. Her anxiety is hindering her from taking the driving test, but she possesses the skills and experience to pass it. I have been incredibly patient, encouraging her every few months to drive more to build her confidence, but so far, there has been no success. I also want to secure a better job to afford a ring, wedding, and family in the future. I recognize that these things may not be critical, but I want to feel as though I have my life organized before marrying. Recently, I have been told that I'm not investing enough effort into the relationship. After being unwell for a week, during which I primarily rested and spent time with her, even though we were not necessarily engaged in activities together, I was asked when we would finally be able to spend a full day together. This was somewhat painful because I had to put everything else on hold, and from my viewpoint, the only thing I could do was enjoy her presence. I understand and desire to spend time actively with her, but this request came right as I was recovering. I then informed her that I needed a few hours this weekend to ease back into my studies and catch up over a call with my friends from work to see what I had missed, and my partner was upset that I could not dedicate the entire day to her. I tried to explain that we would have time together from midday onwards, but this was not met with understanding. I am trying to figure out how to balance my life at this stage, as this behavior has become a recurring issue. Outside of spending time with her and studying, I genuinely do very little apart from cooking, cleaning, and playing with our cats. My studies are aimed at providing us with a better future, and the pay would be significantly more than what I currently earn. However, I have often been made to feel guilty for wanting to study instead of spending time with her. It is important to note that on nights when I study, I come home, prepare dinner, and spend some time catching up about our days before heading to the computer. I want to know how to approach this because I feel that my partner's desire for me to spend more time with her, 1, does not address my ambition to improve our future, 2, makes me feel guilty for wanting time for myself or for the friends I am making outside of study and work, 3, feels excessive. I love spending time with her, but feel that we already share a healthy amount of quality time together. I believe my feelings may stem from the fact that I am significantly busier than she is, resulting in a disparity between the proportion of my free time spent with her and the proportion of her free time allocated to me. However, this sensation of lacking autonomy makes it difficult to contemplate proposing, both in the near and distant future. Any advice on how to handle a conversation to address this?